The image of God. Fascinating topic. It seems like, and may seem I've been on the topic for a while now. But I think that it's important. It's important because I initially began by talking about the blueprint of the religious world. The blueprint of the religious world, the blueprint of this realm called Earth when it comes to religion and religious philosophy and the care towards that. The blueprint is and always will be the image of God. That first scene in Genesis chapter 1 is a scene of creation. It is a scene of creation concerning the structure of ecclesiastical history. It is a chapter in the book of Genesis chapter 1. It is a chapter focusing on the scheme of ecclesiastical history. The scheme of ecclesiastical history. That means the matrix of the repeating religious world for so long as this earth has been and will continue on. It will not change. That's the blueprint. And the image of God being connected to that is the blueprint of the religious world and of earth. We can't escape, and this is why the trend is always there, why this is such a thing that I guess we just automatically go to it. The image of God. The image of God is the structure for how religion is supposed to organize itself. And what does that mean? That means that when we see religion, we should also see following mandates that are handwritten. When we see religion, we should see following mandates concerning rituals and ceremonies and baptisms, along with theories for the present and for the past and for the future. That means that when we're seeing religion, we should understand that there is a scheme of commandment, handwritten, for the purpose of creation being done for righteousness to the adherent or to the doer of what is commanded. This is the blueprint. So I initially began by stating that this is the blueprint, and then from moving on from there, looking at why this is the blueprint or how this is the blueprint. That led us down into examining this term image. Because man is created in the image of God. Well, what does it mean to be created in the image of God? It means to have a mind or a disposition to command for the sake of creation, or for the sake of what is hearing it, doing it for the purpose of righteousness or goodness or favor. And this man that is then created, it is not necessarily the literal as we would think, because we moved into the realm or into the direction of seeing John 4:24, Luke 24:39. God is a spirit doesn't have flesh and bones. So processing that allows us to understand that what we are seeing as a general creation is not a literal creation. It's a mindset is being passed down. A mindset is being passed down. A specific attitude, a specific disposition, a specific character, a specific stream of thought. That's what the image of God is. The image of God is the praise of God. And when we're looking in that first chapter, Genesis chapter 1, it's really not difficult to see what the praise of God is. The praise of God is creation. The praise of God is creation how? The praise of God is creation through commanding, and then from having what is commanded heard and done for the purpose of being good. That needs to be placed into what is being created. Now, as mind is doing this, remember, Genesis 1, let's just keep it simple. Mind is doing all of this. If mind is doing all of this, then mind needs to also be attributed to the character that is being imposed, or that we would suppose is being imposed. And that mind is a mind of character or a stream of thought, to where what is acted out is being transferred. And what is being transferred is the art of communicating through commandment for the purpose of what is heard and done to be done for the purpose of good, that it may be then seen as righteous so long as the commandment is followed. this is the blueprint. This is the blueprint, and it should be no surprise to us that this is the blueprint. And when I'm saying again, blueprint, this is the blueprint for religion and for religious experience. It is established. The Bible establishes this as fact. We will never be able to live on this earth, and no matter what generation it is in, and live in a time period where the image of God doesn't reign, and where the image of God is not natural. The natural inclination is the image of God. That's natural. That's the natural inclination for us, to gravitate towards the image of God, whether we are of that mankind or whether we are the offspring of that mankind, being generally associated to or being the listeners. No matter what age of life we're living in, no matter what world, no matter what generation, this is the blueprint. Being the blueprint, it is inescapable. And when I say inescapable, there is nothing physically that can be done. There is nothing, and I really difficult to say this, but there's nothing spiritually about this that can be done, because the chief spiritual mind has set this into play. We have to also remember that everything here in this natural order, everything here on earth, it is established by the mind that created it and that set it forward. There is nothing that can be changed unless that mind would change it. Well, religion has been the way that it has been. The image of God is the way that it is and has been for this entire time, and has suffered no change because it's not supposed to. And so I'm saying all of that just because all of the questions I get, all of the conversations I have about why it is like this, why it is like this, why isn't there more questioning? How come the individuals, and I'm not talking about their wanting delay to begin to question and to awaken. It's more along the lines of why isn't scholarship questioning this? Why isn't scholarship seeing what you're saying? Why isn't scholarship seeing what the Bible is saying? Why isn't scholarship understanding the track? And it tracked. Well, it's because it's the blueprint. And the ones that we're looking for are hoping for in the world and in the religious world to see something different in terms of behavior or character concerning the mind within the scriptures. Well, we are never going to see that happen, because the Bible also in the book of Ecclesiastes chapter 3 categorizes these individuals out. There is an exercise given to the sons of men, and that exercise is the travail that is occurring within the religious world. For God had set the world in their heart that they can know no thing about either the world itself or the work of the living God's hands. So we have to remember, I said in the previous episode, what if it's a trap? Well, everything is pointing to the fact that it is. That it is. And when we're seeing the sons of men are given this specific task to have only the world or the religious world in their heart, that they may know nothing, including the work of the living God's hands. The sons of men are, we can say, as in the book of Hebrews 5:1, conceived by men, the offspring of men. Again, these men are not natural men. Natural men cannot give birth. The Bible's language is allegorical and figurative. This is priesthood, and the conception is mental through a stream of thought, through semen or seminary, where that word seminary comes from. Structurally, that word seminary comes from semen, because the seed is passing from man to man. Not literal, it's psychological, it's doctrinal, it's dogma. These are the sons of men, and their category is to maintain the theme of the religious world, and the theme of the religious world is the image of God. That's why we will never see a change in that sector, because they are maintaining what they're supposed to maintain. Whether a pastor or a church leader or a ministry volunteer, or whether the work is going on within and that it's personal, your soul temple being cared for, Church Source is your online source for everything that you need to make your journey and your ministry prosperous. Head on over to my website to click the affiliate links. They will take you to Church Source, where you will be able to see and to discover the resources that will help you make your journey and your ministry thrive. So yesterday I was here and I came across different people, different dog walkers, dogs. I love dogs. And an elder gentleman, he was telling me about birds. He loves birds. And he was telling me that these birds, they have their own particular sound. And each bird has its own particular sound. And they can't break that sound because that's just the sound of them. That's just the sound of that bird. I like to think of it in that sense. When we're thinking about the categories of the sons of men, they can't break their song. They are their own particular bird. They can't break their song. And so the discussions that I'm having around why isn't scholarship seeing things like this? How come this same pattern of, nothing's progressing in the religious world? It's just the same, and it's not getting any better, and it's not really doing that much at this point in time. How come they're not seeing this? Well, it's because they can't sing another song. They can't sing another song. And the Bible is letting us know this for a fact. The Bible categorizes these individuals out. The sons of men maintain the image of God. And the image of God is not a literal physical image. The image of God is based on character, based on attitude, based on stream of thought. The image of God is examining through what is handwritten, dictating through what is handwritten, controlling by what is handwritten. All theoretical and all from the experience of a conscience that's putting that down onto the pen, by pen onto the paper. That is the structure of the religious world, and these are the individuals that guide it and that are supposed to maintain that culture. And so there's frustration. There's a lot of frustration from the conversations that I do have, individuals that are feeling as though religion has not catered to them, feeling as though religion has insulted their humanity, feeling as though religion has chained them to some sort, but at the same time, they're not willing to go the route of living without anything philosophical or devotional in their life. They want to regain the lost experience. And these are the questions, and these are the conversations. And the questions and the conversations are leading back to what is the image of God. And as I've been saying on my, or have been in the past weeks on my Justification Live, the experience isn't for everyone. The experience isn't for everyone. Every song of every bird isn't for every bird. That is a particular bird for a particular song. The fact that individuals are passing through a religious or spiritual experience and wanting more for their devotional conversation, that doesn't mean that their experience has been wrong. Doesn't mean that the past has been negative towards them. It doesn't mean that what they see as an envisioned experience is false. It doesn't mean that what they understand is erroneous. The experience to have that escape is actually an experience that is fundamental to the Bible's philosophy. And yes, on the surface, every single one of the pages of the Bible promote the image of God, which is the art of deeds and acts to please a divine eye. The art of deeds and acts done to please the divine eye. On the surface, the Bible sanctions this because that's the blueprint. But underneath it all, beneath the surface of that, is a core philosophy concerning an exodus from what is phrased the image of God. An exodus out for the purpose of understanding the character of the conversation and for the purpose of growing familiar with the devotional character of the Bible and also the devotional character of the living God. So yes, the image of God, it is the blueprint. It is the blueprint. That's how that quote-unquote man or quote-unquote mankind was created. Mankind was created in the image of God. And that's philosophical. That's not literal. That's philosophical. That's not literal. If you have spirit creating, and if spirit doesn't have flesh and bones, in what context ought that creation of that spirit to be? We're not looking at something literal. We are looking at the blueprint of a character. We're looking at the blueprint of a character for a specific group of individuals. Quote unquote mankind. The kind of man that the Bible is talking about is the kind of individual whose routine this is. The kind of individual whose routine this is. This is the individual who, through pen and paper, is guiding an experience that is devotional. Prime figure is Moses. So when we're seeing Moses, when we're seeing a Moses figure, when we're seeing the character or the disposition of Moses exercised, Moses literally represents what the image of God is. But what is interesting is that in the book of Deuteronomy 18, that same author, having that same character, is letting the reader know that there will come a point in time where there will come a prophet that will speak the words of the living God. That will speak the words of the living God. And that's interesting because if what we are seeing as a character displayed from Moses is, if they are, I should say, the words of the living God, then there would be no need for that verse to exist. But there should come a point in time where the mind of the living God should live. It is as if Moses, not the man, but the disposition. Moses, the disposition, should exist for a certain period of time, and then another disposition is supposed to come into existence. That's exactly the argument in Galatians 3 concerning the disposition, or should I say that, the dispensation of Moses, not the man, but the code. Moses, the code. That's the argument. And so when we see that time period approaching, as the author of the book of Isaiah says, I will turn their wisdom upside down. I will turn their wisdom upside down. The wisdom of the prudent men shall be hid. There's going to come a point in time where the wisdom of the religious world, is going to be turned upside down. Evident. The Bible lets us know that although the blueprint exists, although this is the tract, that's not all there is to it. And so that's where the conflict comes in now, because now it's not all about the image of God. Now it's about the regeneration of Adam. No longer about the image of God. Now it is about the regeneration of Adam. Two types of creations here. Are you going to be created in the image of God, or are you going to be created as Adam was? And that creation of Adam being a regeneration, or as Paul in Ephesians 4 likes to say, put off your former conversation and be renewed in the spirit of your mind and put on the new man, or the new mind, which is created. The Bible lets us know that a shift is supposed to take place, where that shift is no longer focusing on the image of God for a form of devotion. It is shifting to Adam, the way that Adam was regenerated, and regenerated by receiving a certain breath within the spirit of his mind.
Our faith is alive. Our belief is a living structure. But what does it mean to have a working faith? What does it mean to have a belief assisting our thoughts and feelings? A Faith That Works is a book informing its reader on how to cultivate an active faith. We usually have to make our faith work. We usually need to do something in order for us to feel like our faith is alive. Is this the right way to handle our devotional experience? Find correct guidance and instruction on how to carry the body of your faith in A Faith That Works.
So when I'm talking about the image of God as the blueprint, there's no mistake that it is. We can look around and see. We can look around and see that it is the blueprint. And being the blueprint, it is inescapable. It is as inescapable as DNA. As you cannot escape your DNA, so too the religious world cannot escape its DNA. The DNA of the religious world is the image of God. The DNA of the religious world is the image of God. That's unchangeable. Yet, at this point in time, and according to the scriptures, although the religious world exists, there is to be an experience above the religious world. So now this is where that saying, be in the world and not of the world, kicks in. Usually when we hear that, we hear it in a secular way, because traditional religion is secular based. So it keeps it secular. But that's actually not supposed to be taken secularly, it's supposed to be taken devotionally. Although within the religious world, although within the realm where the image of God reigns, our conversation is supposed to partake not of that image of God any longer, but of the regeneration that is demonstrated and exemplified and rehearsed by the author of the book of Genesis in chapter 2 concerning Adam. Our conversation is to pass through a regeneration. What is it to be regenerated from? That's justification. That's justification. The conversation is to be regenerated from the image of God. Now, is that crazy to hear? Is that crazy to think about? In the context of how we have been phrasing it, the context in which we have been allowing the Bible to show it, is that really crazy now? Because it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be that crazy. Because we have the example of the crucifixion, which Galatians 3 breaks down perfectly. That body should not be looked at as a literal body, but as a body of understanding. As a body of understanding crucified, we need to take into consideration of what that body of understanding that is crucified is. When we can get that, well, we can understand what to regenerate from. In that illustration of the crucifixion, it is actually the illustration of Adam. Because the ground of which Adam was laid in was the ground concerning the image of God. Taken from out of that ground and given new breath to become a soul that is alive. That's literally the philosophy of the entire Bible. Our conversation is grounded in the routine of the religious world's culture, which has absolutely nothing to do with the philosophy that is within the Bible. Nevertheless, our conversations are created within this realm of the religious world. Sure, so be it. For a time, that's well. But there's going to come a point in time where the conversation is going to have to resurrect from that ground, break it open, and rise up. rising up to be alive, rising up to its character, rising up to its virtue, although constructed within the religious world, now taking on the work of the living God. This is how we understand the living God is creator. This is how we understand the living God is creator. Creation isn't physical. Creation is not physical. Creation is within. We are here and existing for the purpose of an experience of growth within. We are here and are existing for an experience of the kind of growth that is within. That is where the heart of the Bible wants to direct our mind towards. And that is where the core philosophy of the scriptures is pointing at. That core philosophy being defined from Genesis 1 to Genesis 2. Being created in the image of God, being reborn by the character of Adam. Now we have the option to choose which we would. The scriptures let us know what the surface is, what the surface experience is, but at the core, we're supposed to break the ground of that surface experience and have our conversation resurrect to match the devotional character of our Creator.